Right, so now we're going to look at some key attributes and STAAR questions involving quadratic functions. And so this first question says, what is the range of this quadratic function? Okay, and so range we know is y. And so right off the bat, we can cross off A and B because x is domain, range is y. Okay, so now if we're guessing, we're at a 50-50 shot. And so if I graph this function in Desmos, y equals negative x squared minus 2x plus 3. I can see that negative 3, we don't care about those. We care about the top and bottom of the box when we're doing range. Okay, so if this is the function, the top of the box is at y equals 4. And then the bottom of the box, we can't really put 1 because the function keeps going. And so it's going to negative infinity. And so our range would be less than or equal to that positive 4. If it were opening up, like this, I call that a happy parabola. We would have y is greater than or equal to 4, but we don't have that in this case. We have this one. Okay. The next question says, what is the domain? Well, anytime you have a quadratic, the domain is all real numbers, but let's type it in and look at it. So f of x equals 9 minus x squared. Okay, so domain is always x, and so you want something to do with x, not f of x. That's the same as y, and so don't look at that. That's distractor. Okay, and so for this function, if I zoom out, you can see it keeps going forever to the left and forever to the right. Okay, and so as it's going down, it's also going to the left and it's going to the right forever. And so sometimes we say negative infinity to positive infinity, but most of the time they're just going to call that all real numbers, everything. Okay. Number 18 here, which statement is true about g of x equals x squared minus 576 equals x squared minus 576. Gonna have to zoom way out for that. Right here, we're talking about zeros again, so that's x-intercepts. We have negative 24 and positive 24. Okay, and so here they're saying the zeros is negative 288 and 288. That is not true. The only zero is 288, not true. The zeros are negative 24 and 24. That is true. J says there's only one zero at 24. That is not true. So our answer is H. You could factor it if you wanted to, but we didn't need to. We have Desmos. All right, which graph best represents a quadratic function that only has one zero? So they're testing you. They want to know if you know that a zero is the same as an x-intercept. And so this function has two x-intercepts. This function has two x-intercepts. This function has one. This function has none. Okay, so 2, 2, 1. That's our answer. Let's highlight it. Okay, so B is our answer. Okay, here's that question that says, like, what is the positive solution? So again, we're looking for x-intercepts. And we can type this into Desmos if we use our y equals. So y equals 0. I'm going to use red. And then we can type y equals 1/3 x squared minus 3. Y equals 0. Y equals 1/3 x squared minus 3. Minus 3. Okay, so I'm going to click the house. We've got -3 and +3. But they wanted positive solution. So pick the positive number, x equals 3. Which function is equivalent? There's that word equivalent. So once again, we can type in our original function. Oops. Type this in and then type in each answer choice. Okay, so -4 x plus 7 squared minus 6. Okay, there he is. And then for the other options, you can just use y. I wouldn't use f of x again. That sometimes confuses the calculator. This is option A. Okay, so the blue and the red match. They're exactly the same. And so F, gosh, I keep doing that. F is probably our answer. We can check the others just in case. You have all day. I think you have all day to take this test. And so take your time. Verify that the green is not the same. So definitely not B or G. We can try -4x squared minus 56x minus 172. Definitely not the same as the red. And then for the last one, y equals -4x squared plus 190. Yeah, that's definitely not the same. Right, a graph of a quadratic function is shown on the grid. Which coordinates best represent the vertex of the graph? The vertex is right in the middle. It's the point right in the center. And so this is the vertex. The coordinates are 1 on the x, -2 on the y. So 1, -2. It's an ordered pair. A graph of a quadratic function is shown on the grid. Which equation best represents the axis of symmetry? The axis of symmetry is a vertical line right through the middle of your graph. And so vertical lines cross the x-axis. And so they're always going to be an x equal equation for these quadratic functions. And here it crosses at x equals 2. So x equals 2 is our answer. The graph of a quadratic function r is shown on the grid. What is the solution to r of x equals 0? Okay, so here's the 0 line. And they already graphed it for us. So these are our solutions. So if you zoom in, this one's at -6. And this one's at +14. +14 is an option, -6 is not. These are not correct. All right, the graph of a quadratic function is shown on the grid. which function is best represented by this graph. Just like everything else, type them in, see which one matches. Okay, and so you can use y equals or f of x. We're not using function notation to evaluate anything. Okay, and so this function's opening up. Our original function is not opening up. So it is not f. Okay, y equals negative x squared minus 3x plus 4. Option B looks good. We have a vertex at negative 1.5, positive 6.5, negative 1.5, positive 6.5. That could work. Let's try H. Y equals x squared minus 3x minus 4. That opens up. That's a happy parabola. Anything with a positive x squared is going to open up. So now let's try J. Y equals negative x squared plus 3x plus 4. That vertex is not in the right place. It's in quadrant 1, and we want our vertex to be in quadrant 2. And so our answer is G. All right, I think we're almost to the end. The total number of seats in an auditorium is modeled by f of x equals 2x squared minus 6x, where x represents the number of rows of seats. How many rows are there in an auditorium if there is a total of 416 seats? Okay, so x represents the number of rows of seats. How many rows? And so how many rows is they want to know what is the x value? How many rows? What does x equal when there's a total of 416 seats? And so that seat number is your y value. The total number of seats is y. The rows is x. That one's kind of tricky. So they want to know, when does y equal 416? Okay, and so if we graph this function, two x squared minus 6x. And then we're looking for when y equals 416. I have to zoom out because 416 is way up here. The negative number is not going to make sense. We're not going to have negative rows of seats, but 16 would make sense. So x equals 16. 16 is what you would type in as your answer.